All right, live. Looks good. Hey everyone, happy Wednesday morning. And yeah, let me know in the chat how you're all doing today. I hope well. We're gonna be doing today some chroma key. So we're gonna bring in some stock footage from Adobe Stock's free collection, and some of that's gonna have be shot against green screen, and some of it's just going to be environmental video. We're going to layer those together. We're going to color grade them to match, and do a little bit of keyframing maybe, depending upon the footage, and then export that. So yeah, whew, busy morning. All right, so I don't know how long this one's going to take. This one might not take too long, but whatever. Right, so let's see. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to be streaming today, so I'm glad that I'm able to do that. So I've got, as you can see, a Premiere project already opened up and ready to go, and as mentioned, I've downloaded a bunch of files here, so let's have a look at those. I've got some of this stock footage. This one's just a snowy scene here, which I don't think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use this one instead, which is just a panning shot of like a forest. It's really nice. I like the colors and the motion and everything. Then we've got two options for the actual green screen stuff. There's this lady here, and this would be good for, like, if you had something showing up in our hand, right? So that's the route that I was initially going to go with this particular project today. However, I think I'm actually going to go with this one here, because I don't know why. I guess it's not supposed to be funny, but she looks so worried. So I'm going to put her in that forest, try to make her feel a little better about stuff, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. If we look inside of Premiere here, I've got my project bin, so I'm gonna import these two pieces of media. Let's grab my green screen footage and also the woods right here. And then we'll just move that Finder window out of there. And let's actually have a look here. So there are different frames per second, which should be okay. Premiere does a pretty good job at translating that between different things. So that's gonna work for us, and it's only one off each. Duration, we're not gonna use the whole piece of footage for each one. What I'm really looking for here, there we go. I want to see how big these are. So I don't know, they're about the same. 1920 by 1080 or 2048 by 1080. So let's go ahead and start off with this one right here. And if we want to see what these are, we can always go down here and do icon view. You can see which one is which. As you can see, this one is not as tall, right? But they're both the same width. So, and it's not going to really matter because we're pretty much going to use her as an asset anyway. So it's going to work out. All right, so let's go ahead and just drag this stock footage into our timeline. That'll automatically create a sequence for us. And there we go. We've got our little sequence here, and it's automatically named. And then we've got our footage added to that sequence. Let's pull that out. We got about 15 seconds of content here. And if we play that back inside of our program window here in our timeline, we can see exactly what this is going to look like. So this is what we have to work with in terms of the background. So before we do anything with positioning, let's actually bring her down and into track number 2. And there she is. She's so sad. All right. So she's having a real bad day. Let's try to cheer her up a little bit. All right. So I'm going to rename this this sequence here. Go in, rename. I'm going to call this sadness. Perfect. And then let's go over to our effects workspace here, because this is going to bring up a couple of different things for me. I'm going to get my effect controls over here. I'm going to get my effects panel, and that's going to be both really useful for the next couple things that we're doing here. So the first thing I need to do, of course, is actually get rid of the green color. I want that to be transparent. I want her to be in the forest. So let's look here in our video effects. And if I go down to keying, we've got actually a bunch of different effects for keying out certain colors and things like that. I think I'm going to choose Ultra Key. And all you need to do is just, you know, drag it directly onto your footage in the timeline here. Just place it on that clip. And there we go. Now it all pops up into our effect controls for that. You can see we've got our usual motion and opacity controls here and time remapping. These three are, you know, just general properties that you can change and you can keyframe across time. And just about any piece of footage would have that. So if I clicked on my background footage here, you can see I've got motion, opacity, time remapping as well. And if I click on this one, because I added Ultra Key to this, I'm able to go through and perform some keying here. So the first thing I want to do is just select my key color. It's probably the most basic step when you're keying. You want to say, hey, Ultra Key, I want you to key out this particular color, and then you go through and you refine all the different bits and pieces, the properties down here. So just clicking on, oops, hey, look at that. Ah, thanks, macOS. Open up my system preferences and give it permission. This probably is going to work anyway, even if I don't give it permission for this, but hey. All right. And of course, I'm doing this off screen because I don't want to type in my password or anything, where people are going to be able to see that. There we go. So Premiere Pro should have permissions now to record the screen, which, whatever. All right. There we go. Ooh, so it did a pretty good job right from the start, right? There we have her, and she's within her little forest here, but there's, you know, it's still not that great. She just kind of pops in, and she still looks pretty sad, even though she's, you know, in this nice forested environment, which is too bad. I mean, she should be, something terrible must have happened, right? So let's see. Oh, there's a good amount of people in here. So anybody who just joined, hello. We're just playing around with some chroma key today, getting some footage composited. We're gonna color grade this afterwards. We're gonna add in some keyframes and stuff like that, because if you look right now, you know, she stays still while the background moves, right? If the camera's actually moving, we need to sort of like key her position along and add some motion to that in order for it to look a little more realistic, right? So, right, let's do it. We're gonna start her out along the side here. So let's go ahead and go into my motion. Actually, I mean, gosh, Ultra Key did a really, really good job on this. If we zoom in, and let's get a nicer expression. There we go. You can see there's a lot. I mean, it's a really clean green screen job, right? So, of course, it's going to be really, really simple to apply a workable, you know, key to this. But there are a couple different things we could do here. you can see there's all sorts of additional stuff. So you got like spill suppression, where if we turn up that saturation, oops, if we desaturate it, it can get rid of some of the green tinging that might have spilled over from when this was recorded, right? And yeah, I mean, it's so clean. I can see maybe a little bit in her hair right here. So I guess we'll just bump that up just a tiny bit. We don't want to desaturate it too much. You've got spill, luma, range, all sorts of different stuff. So, I mean, there's really not a lot to do here. Seeing how nice this is. And if we go and scrub across the background here, you know, you can see from frame to frame, there's not a lot going on. So in that case, let's move on and reposition her. I'm gonna go fit in the window once again. And yeah, let's see here. Right, so instead of Ultra key, we're gonna go to motion, twirl that down, and we want to change her position. Her scale's just fine, but position, we want to enable that stopwatch. So, you know, we're gonna pull this way back over here. Zoom in a little bit if we want. And you could do it up here too. We can make this a little wider so we can see the whole thing. So if we go right to the beginning of this clip and we change the animation toggle stopwatch, put that right there, we can then go ahead and make adjustments to her X and Y position. So we could move her off screen over here. It's gonna be fun. And then at the end here, we can change her position once again. And because we have that stopwatch toggled, of course, it's going to insert a new keyframe inside here, which is represented by this little diamond at the beginning, and there'll be one at the end as well. So let's bring her back. Oh, I can't see where she is. Nice. Here, let's pull this over. I'm going to position it first. And gosh, let me see here. There we go. Jump to a keyframe that I want. Perfect. So I don't have to make extra keyframes on here. And we just want to move her all the way back over here. I'm just using my touchpad to drag her back over. And let's, I don't know, let's stop her like right there. Seems good. And then we'll figure out, based on that, you know, exactly where to position or where to cut the clip, things like that. So, let's see. Again, hope everybody's doing well today. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so I hope the chat isn't broken. But if you want to say hi, go ahead and say hi, because I always like to interact with people in the chat as we go through these. All right. So let's have a look at it. We'll just play it back as it exists right now. Actually, the timing is like pretty good. Now we're gonna have to cut this right about there. So I'm gonna pull that back. Like that last little shrug she does there. All right, cool. So yeah, there's not really a lot we need to do with the positioning of her or anything like that. I'm pretty happy with, you know, the effect that this is giving as we're going through here and everything. But as I mentioned earlier, there are some things we could always do to help sort of color grade this, right? So, you know, obviously she was recorded on a, you know, in a studio with, you know, the green screen and stage lighting and everything. Whereas the background was done in a completely environmental kind of thing. So she's appearing a bit too bright here, right? So let's go back one workspace over to color. And inside of color here, we can go ahead and perform some sort of correction to this. So it probably doesn't really need to be, you know, that severe, because, you know, she blends in pretty good as it is right now. I mean, really, it's the same thing with video as it is with audio pieces, right? If you get really good stuff to start with, you know, really good quality video, quality audio, then there's not a lot of stuff you have to do afterwards when you're compositing it, when you're putting it all together, when you're mixing it. It's going to be, you know, solid. It's not going to be as much work. So it's always a good idea to, you know, get your footage right before you bring it in and have to correct anything, right? So let's see here. There are some different creative looks that we can apply to this that are based on the Lumetri color engine here. So, but there's also stuff you can do. You can just edit, just like in Lightroom, right? You can just like edit curves and sliders and things like that. So, I don't know. Yeah, we got our basic correction here. So white balance selector, we could always choose that white balance as an input LUT we could use. I'm just gonna grab a just grab a bit of creative looks here. Just see what we might have. And I'm thinking, you know, just making her a little colder. Or warmer even. I mean, it's a pretty warm scene. We could use one of these golds. Let's try that one. Yeah. It's pretty good. Gold orange. Gold tobacco. I don't like that one as much. Yeah. So you can start with one of these. I'm going to go with the gold orange. And then you can, of course, go through and, you know, make changes to this stuff. If we look up here, we've got our Lumetri Scopes. You've got the effect controls. And if you look in the effect controls here, under Ultra Key, I now also have my Lumetri color controls, where I'm able to do additional things here. So, like right now, we've got the look here. We can change the intensity of our look from here. So if you notice, when I change things in my effect control panel, they also change within my Lumetri color panel too, because they're linked together. It's modifying the same exact properties. So let's go ahead and, where is it? There we go. Take it down a little bit. So if you take it all the way down, basically the color profile is barely being applied, and you take it up and it is being applied even more. You can have a faded film effect, which is pointless here, but I might want to actually do some basic corrections as well. You know, just dealing with maybe the temperature, the tint, and so forth. So you can see we can make that a little warmer. Now, what we're doing here with the trees has pretty high contrast, and she does have a light source behind her. So let's pull up the contrast a bit as well. Nothing crazy. We could also mess with the shadows, the whites, the blacks, and of course you got all this stuff over here too, inside of your basic color corrections. So take those shadows a little darker, take the blacks darker, until you're kind of happy with what you've got here, right? And you could go through any of these. So vignetting is going to be kind of pointless for this. However, it might be kind of fun to change the vignetting of the Adobe stock stuff down here behind her. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? Actually, this contrast is way too high. Let's take that down. And yeeks. So that's pretty good. And it does add a bit more placement to her, you know. It looks a little more like she actually belongs in that forest, more than she's been placed there by us, right? So here she comes. Yeah, absolutely looks better. I mean, that's really good now. Actually, that isn't perfect, is it? What do we have here? So I made a mistake somewhere inside of this clip. Ah, there we go. So if you remember, I I moved this little keyframe over, right? He needs to be way over there. There we go. Much better. All right. So of course, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't sure how long this one would take because it's pretty simple. But it is something that's good to know about, especially when you have to, like, you know, take products or, you know, actors like this and place them into a scene that just, you know, that otherwise it would be very, you know, time intensive, cumbersome, difficult to get them into. Like to shoot this, like maybe there's no good forest around, right? So you would need to actually, you know, try to do something like this. Let's get this whole thing in there. So it ends pretty abruptly, and it starts pretty abruptly too. I guess we could, you know, add some additional stuff to this. So let's add like a fade and some more stuff. For that, I'm going to create an adjustment layer. So let's create a new, oops, I'm in the wrong spot here. Let's go to assembly so it's nice and big. Click on new, item, and here we can create a new adjustment layer. I can pop that in video track 3. And then if we go back to our effects workspace, and by the way, I think, I mean, with Premiere Pro, the workspaces in Premiere Pro are, I think, the most useful default workspaces in any of the Adobe applications that I use. Just because I make use of them and they're really easy to access. There's no drop down or anything like that. You just like flip between the different ones and you know exactly what you need, from effects to color to assembly to editing. You can just go through and find what's necessary for what you're trying to do at any particular time. So that's one thing I do really appreciate about Premiere Pro. All right, let's go ahead and look at my video transitions. I'm going to go to dissolve and I want to dip to black. Let's pop that right there. And there we go. So the good thing about using an adjustment layer, right, is that, actually I'm going to make this a little shorter, that transition. There we go. Yeah, the nice thing about using an adjustment layer for stuff like this, and I could pop it in the beginning too here, is that, you know, just like in Photoshop, an adjustment layer inside of Premiere Pro is going to apply to all the layers beneath it, right? So you can apply all sorts of effects and transitions and modifications to an adjustment layer. And, you know, in a case like this where we do have, you know, footage being composited, we have our we have her right here, right? Let's pick a different frame. There we go. We've got her right here. So then right below there, we've got this image or this video. So if we could always go through and apply that effect to both of them and dip them both to black. But since we want to dip everything to black, it makes a lot more sense to just use an adjustment layer to do that, right? And yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we could put some titles on here or something, but I don't really think this needs any titles. We could always put some kind of, audio in here too. I don't have anything picked out for this. But we could, I suppose, go into something here. I don't know. I don't know if I want to bother with audio. I think we're good. Oh, hey, Reverb Mike. How are you? I was beginning to think there was nobody wanting to chat. So, hey, welcome. I hope you're well today. Yeah. No, I don't even... I mean, sometimes I tweak these workspaces, but... Yeah, sound of birds chirping. It's almost like, an actual classroom setting. When you ask a question and... the students just like stare back at you, which has been happening a lot the past year, as you can probably imagine. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I'm gonna just keep it like this. I don't see any real reason to really do anything beyond what we have done to her. But I do want to, of course, export this. So there's a couple of ways I could do that. I could go up to File and export the sequence, render it to Media Encoder. We've got this nice little quick share up here, quick export, which I think I will be... Oh, yeah, I read that as crickets. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from, I guess. So quick export. This is pretty good for people who just want to get their stuff out of Premiere. The other way, you have to go through sort of like Adobe Media Encoder, and you've got like all these different options. And the thing is, it can be. Here, I'm gonna hit export. It's absolutely fine. Encoding sadness, amazing. Yeah, my video is exported correctly. Wonderful. But yeah, if you go through the normal, the old way of doing it, you go like File, and then, well, you have to make sure you have the actual sequence selected. Then you choose File, Export. You can choose to export media. Then you get the big export settings dialog. And this part always trips my students up. No matter how much I explain, what needs to be done. There's always a few that kind of get this part. It's just kind of overwhelming. You've got all these different panels here. You've got a source and an output. You've got these controls down here. You've got all this stuff that's tab-based, right? Your general stuff up here, they don't really know what to do. So, yeah, this is nice to have up here, but with Premiere, they're actually doing a bunch of changes inside of both the import and the export workflows that should be really, really useful moving forward. I think they announced that yesterday or the day before, maybe. And if I go to my Creative Cloud app, if I can find, there we go. If we look here, if you go to the beta apps, which is down at the bottom here, and this is different from pre-release, right? So if you're not in any pre-releases, you're not going to see pre-release, but you got your beta apps here where you have stuff like beta versions of Illustrator and Premiere and so forth. So the Premiere Pro beta that's available through the Creative Cloud app apparently does have those new workflows built into it. They're looking for feedback around that. So yeah, you could actually get access to that right now if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. And an update today. Those of you who have been on my streams for a bit, note that I complain a lot about the Adobe Dimension team. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff around Dimension and other 3D apps that was announced earlier today by Adobe. It's not showing up in here yet. I think I might have to run my updates, check for updates to actually see that stuff. On my other MacBook, I've actually got them showing up already. There's a whole bunch of app announcements. There we go. So you can see there's a Dimension update. There's a Arrow beta update. That's nice. Because, let's update all these. I should do just like, a live stream one day where I just go through and update a bunch of Adobe apps, right? It'd be really engaging. But aside from these, we've got, there we go, now it's showing up. So if you run your updates and you go in here, you can see all of the new apps for Substance 3D. So they've got Stager, which is actually sort of like Dimension, but better. You've got Substance 3D Painter, Sampler, Designer. So they've got a bunch of different stuff in here. There's like 5 different applications that they're announcing today. And you can go to Adobe's website to check this out too. And yeah. Actually, if I log in with Safari, I bet it'll show it. When I log in to Adobe's site in Chrome, because I'm authenticated into Creative Cloud through that browser, there we go. I don't see the stuff that's normally presented to people who aren't logged in, right? I just see Creative Cloud stuff. So if you go to adobe.com now, you'll see all these announcements up here around the Substance 3D apps. And yeah. And Stager does look really cool. Well, let's go learn more. Yeah, so this is all their new stuff. And you can watch a video where they introduce all this stuff. Here's Substance 3D Stager, which again is basically, if you're using Adobe Dimension before, this does a lot of the same stuff that Dimension does, but they're doing more. Yeah, no, there's a Dimension update available, but it doesn't, I'm not sure what it does. It doesn't really say what it does in there. I've been on them for a really long time about M1 MacBook Silicon support, because it's definitely needed by people who are buying new MacBooks, like my students. And I teach Dimension, and it puts me in a real weird situation because a bunch of them can't install it. So I'm hoping that they get that working inside of Stager or Dimension. Both would be great pretty soon, because right now it doesn't work, and it's a big problem. But they know that. I've talked to them about it. Finally got in touch with some of them on the team. So hopefully something comes out of it. And the look on her face right now is kind of how I feel sometimes when I'm dealing with these decisions around Dimension and the other 3D apps, right? It's just very like, oh no. All right, well anyway, here is our sadness MP4 right here, and I'll upload this to Behance after I kill this stream, but here's our finished product here. So pretty good. Nothing too complicated today, but fun to work with, and so forth. So yeah, I guess that is pretty much the stream for today. Next week, what we're gonna do, and I keep thinking maybe early in the morning like this. I keep flip-flopping between different times to do these things. I really used to like doing them at night, but the trouble with doing them at night is sometimes I get tired and want to go to bed. So it's it's I don't know. It's a problem sometimes because I don't want to quite commit to to a certain time. You know, if I'm gonna be sleepy that day, I want to go to sleep. I don't want to have to push through something like this. But it's similar in the morning too, because in the morning it's like, well, you know, usually I get up really early. Like I get up at like, you know, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. If I'm lucky, I'll sleep till 6:30, but the sun wakes me up and other things wake me up, so I end up getting up pretty early. So yeah, sometimes I think I should push this out an hour or so. I put it really early like this to try to avoid Adobe's scheduled Adobe Live events, because, you know, when they do that, they take over just about everything, you know. So, which, I mean, it's their stuff. They do that, and great. But, you know what I'm saying. If I can avoid those times when, you know, when when one of the Adobe evangelists or something is streaming, you know, then I'm going to do that. Just to try to not have any conflicts. And this particular time slot seems to be pretty good for that. So anyway, man, my stream's been good today. I've dropped no frames. It's been a solid green the whole time. I'm really happy about that. All right. Hey, Chris, how you doing? You're coming. I keep on saying I'm gonna end the stream, but then I keep talking about other things. So, gotta say hi to Chris though. Chris Georginas, keyframer. You know, definitely look him up. He streams from time to time as well. I'm not sure if he has a schedule or anything like that, but you know, I've caught a couple of his streams here and again. The last thing I was going to do is bring up my schedule, see what we've got going on for the next week. Gosh, things have been so weird. The past week or two has just been so strange for myself anyway. I think I'm starting to like get into the whole sort of summer feel of things. Not having any classes going on right now or anything, you know. Here we go. Let's check out my schedule. You can always find it on my Behance. And like I said, right now, 8 a.m. on Wednesday is Pacific time, but, you know, I'm always thinking about changing it. Maybe bumping it a little bit. And bumping it up a little bit, like 9 a.m. or something like that. But then again, gonna conflict with Adobe's people going live. So I'm an Adobe featured educator, but on the rung of like Adobe Live events, I'm like way down here, right? So anything else that's going on kind of like, you know, takes precedence on their whole queue, you know. So let's see here. So yeah, I got scheduled for next time print advertisement layout design. We're going to look at at InDesign again. Wait, is that right? Yeah, InDesign again. I don't have any ideas about this yet, but we will figure it out. And then after that, we get into some billboard replacement stuff. We're going to do some motion tracking to replace billboard with your own custom, you know, message from Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever. And track that across motion tracking. Then we're going to do some voiceover production. So just clean voiceovers. A lot of students have problems, you know, creating clean voiceovers. They don't know how to set up their environment. They don't know what they should be looking for exactly. And then afterwards, what are the tools to actually, you know, to get that so it's not awful, you know, because lots of times it's awful, some of the stuff. I got a pretty busy July, so I'm taking a few weeks off because I'm doing other things. I'm doing a big workshop on Adobe Animate for how to teach, and that's actually the URL right there. And that's a 2-day workshop. It's going to be pretty intensive, so I'm not going to stream that week. And then the Adobe Education Leader Summit, followed by the General Education Summit for Adobe, is the week of the 28th, so that's going to be pretty busy too. I've got a session for the AEL Summit that I'm doing, and that's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be around getting 2D animation, 2D animated content from Adobe Animate into AR through Adobe Aero. So that's pretty cool. If you've never seen that workflow, I'll probably work that into a stream one week too. That might be fun. But yeah, so I update this usually every week or two, just to keep it up to date. But yeah, things could change at any time. So yeah, Reverb Mike, they do. Yeah, there was. I don't want to call anybody out, but there were some projects that were you know, the audio was rough, and the students got to me like to clean it up afterwards, and you can only do so much. So anyhow, cool. So I'm gonna stop the stream here. Thanks for joining, everyone. Reverb Mike and Chris, both of you have a nice day, and I'll see you around. I bump into both of you occasionally on these streams, so I always appreciate you joining. And anybody else who joined, thanks for stopping by. Not the most complicated topic for today, but one that's pretty straightforward, pretty good to know. We're good to go now with this project. So, right on. See you all later. And everybody stay safe out there.